Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So I guess this is a quick preview for Terence Crawford versus Israil Madrimov. Of course this fight goes down this weekend, takes place on DAZN, I believe. And yeah, Terence Crawford is attempting to become a 4-weight world champion. Israil Madrimov is the WBA super welterweight champion, hails out of Uzbekistan, unbeaten, has a record of 10-0 with one technical draw, I believe. Very experienced amateur, but obviously not quite as experienced as a professional. But he's an interesting opponent for Terence Crawford, I would say. He's the younger man, he's the fresher man, and while he lacks in experience, he does have that in his favour. He's also a relatively big puncher. Israil Madrimov, he hits pretty hard with both hands. He can be somewhat unorthodox. Very explosive fighter. Is known to take risks, although he has kind of tapered that down in recent performances. He's a lot more selective in his punch picking especially. But he's a fighter who, like I say, very athletically gifted. He's explosive. He's got decent punching power, and, I think he will carry some sort of threat in this fight. I do think he's been improving technically and tactically in the last couple of fights or so. Early on in his pro career, when I watched Madrimov fight, I always saw a guy who, in my opinion, was trying to do way too much. There was a lot of unnecessary movement, a lot of unnecessary punching, and for me, he always looked like a guy who was trying way too much in there, doing way too much unnecessary movements. Like I said, he's toned that down in recent fights. I still don't think he's there yet. He still has a lot of learning to do as a pro, developing that pro style, developing that experience, etc. But he's definitely got better in recent fights. And when you look at Israil Madrimov, you could make the argument that he may be the hardest hitter Terence Crawford's fought. Because, yeah, Terence Crawford has fought guys who can punch or have some sort of power. Guys like Kell Brook, for example, guys like Errol Spence Jr., but I wasn't convinced that they were all that healthy going into the fights with Crawford. I can't say the same for Madrimov. He's a guy in his prime, pretty much in his natural weight class. He doesn't struggle too badly to make the weight from what I understand. So he should be fresh, he should be healthy, he should be in his prime, and he should be punching hard, So physically, I think Madrimov does pose some interesting propositions for Terence Crawford. And, like I said, he's kind of got a unique style, that Uzbeki style, especially when these Uzbekistani fighters turned pro. The styles were very unorthodox, they were very flamboyant, and they can catch you unawares, there's no doubt about it. But on the flip side, as I said, Madrimov has tuned some of that out of his game, but he still does it. He still has that element to his game also. The issue is he does leave openings. Crawford is a very good counter-puncher. He spots the openings very well from both southpaw and orthodox. He can counter you with a lead right hook, lead left hook, lead uppercut, the straight down the middle, whether it be the straight left or especially the straight right hand. Madrimov is, in my opinion, is always going to be a guy who gives elite counterpunchers opportunities. The opportunities will be there for Terence Crawford, especially considering his superior experience in the pro ring, especially fights at this level. So I think the counterpunch opportunities more than likely are going to be there for Terence Crawford. It's whether his power counts at 154. He hit hard at 135, he hit hard at 140, seems to be hitting very hard at 147. Does that power then carry up again to 154? Because when you look at Crawford, his power seems to be increasing as he goes up, The hardest punching Crawford was seemingly at welterweight. Is that going to remain the same at 154? We shall see. Madrimov's a guy who's quite stocky, he's got a thick neck, it looks like he can take a shot. But we will see. The issue I have with Madrimov in this fight, I don't see him winning a boxing match against Terence Crawford. I think if he were to win this fight, he would have to stop Crawford, either land one perfect shot and knock Crawford out, or land a shot that hurts Crawford, drops him, and then maybe drops him multiple times, or lands a shot, hurts Crawford, and then jumps on him to finish him. I can't see Madrimov pulling off a boxing display here where neither guy gets dropped and Madrimov wins on points. I can't see that happening. Even if he makes it very close, I very much doubt he would get the decision. And quite frankly, I don't think he can make that sort of fight a necessarily close enough fight to where he could have an argument to win. Crawford's a much longer fighter. There's a lot of talk about Crawford moving up, but I believe Crawford has something like a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight. Plus you combine that with the switching between southpaw and orthodox, the different looks, the different angles. Crawford is very astute on the back foot. I think he's actually got a lot better at it as he's gone through his career, because earlier in his career when Crawford would fight on the back foot, there wasn't really anything to worry about in terms of power, because he was very cautious just to get out of the way, keep pecking away and winning the rounds. But in recent years, Crawford will fight on the back foot, set his feet, time you coming in, then continue moving. But that's given him the ability to play the boxer role but still hurt you, because when he does plant his feet, he can generate power out of both stances. And you would imagine when looking at this fight, especially early on, I would imagine that Madrimov will be the aggressor here. Especially early on, like I said, and that could give Crawford the opportunity to land these counters very early. It's weird, when I look at this fight, I actually think Madrimov, despite me being critical of him early in his career, I think Madrimov, going back to his old style, being very gung-ho with his attacks, trying to throw crazy combinations, crazy movement, although a lot of it at times was unnecessary, I think maybe that sort of risk-taking style would be better suited in this fight against Terence Crawford. You know, give him looks that he's not seen before. Give him angles that he's not seen before. Try to surprise him, try to catch him cold, and maybe land something. The more mature Israil Madrimov that we've seen in the last couple of fights, I actually think it may play against him. And don't get me wrong, I view Crawford as more skilled either way. But for some weird reason, I kind of feel like Madrimov earlier in his career, if he could readopt that style, the more risk-taking style, I think he would stand a slightly better chance of winning than he does now. I give him a puncher's chance, to be honest, but that's really it. Crawford is more versatile, he's comfortable out of both stances, he hits hard in his own right, you know, he can set his feet, he can box on the back foot, he's more experienced, and ultimately I think he wins this bout, but I wouldn't be surprised if Madrimov has a few moments. It's a decent fight, it's a risky enough fight. Madrimov does bring something a little different, so we shall see, but yeah, I've got Crawford in this one. I can't see past Terence Crawford. Method of victory, not really sure, to be honest. Maybe a late stoppage, maybe points, I don't know, but if it does end, I think Crawford stops it late, and if it goes on points, I think Crawford wins on points, so yeah. It's an okay fight though, it's interesting. I'll definitely be paying attention. But anyway, share your thoughts below. Been your guy Delboy. Peace.